MVP.
Hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
You never get ahead of yourself. As Harris down the field,
I know Rennies do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that rinse do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 77. Myself and Al Ryan here for the last episode of the year. Al, I mentioned to you before we went on the air, the week between Christmas and New Year's is so strange. And it's so easy to get lost in the day of the week, whether who's working, who's not working, what's open, what's not open. I texted you yesterday at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I said, holy shit, we have a show tomorrow.
Yeah, I just was upstairs trying to do some last-minute cramming for the episode, and my wife, Casey, says, yeah, I can't even believe you're doing an episode tonight. Like, the episode should just be, hey, everybody was too busy doing Christmas shit, and that's the episode.
Dude, it's crazy. You're like a best of. Megan said we should do a best of. I said, what do you want us to do? Play segments from like October?
God, you know how long that would take to put together? Can you
It's almost easier just to throw together an episode.
Yeah, us trying to toil over that. I want to start, though. I know we have to mention number 77 and all that, but I have to start with this. We have a Christmas Pollyanna gift exchange with Casey's family every year. So Casey has 3 younger siblings, and all the significant others get in. So it's 8 people total, and you don't know who you get, obviously. And friend of the pod, been on the pod, my brother-in-law, Dan. His fiance, Nicole, his lovely fiance, who I've known many years now, got me and surprised me with this lovely glass with the 3K logo on it.
Nice.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely just amazing gift. Love it. Been drinking out of it since yesterday. Also got me some ear pods that I had wanted and a Tom Wamsgans t-shirt. I don't know if you started Succession yet, but
I watched the first season a while ago. I never got back into it at this point.
But yeah, so this episode is brought to you by some Christmas spirits here.
What are you sipping on there?
This is ginger ale.
Okay.
Because Al needs a little bit of a break from the libations.
Fair enough. I've actually become a little bit of a ginger ale guy over the last couple. My wife is big in ginger ale, so it comes in the house. I've warmed up to it. I wasn't a big ginger ale guy as a kid.
It's a polarizing soda. People love it or hate it.
Yeah, I go through stretches. But listen, we're not big pat on the back guys here at this podcast. We don't like to toot our own horn here, Al.
That's bullshit, but go ahead.
Play along. But listen, now that we are in December 26th, I want to give us credit and pat us on the back because we have podcasted every week this year. 52 episodes. I think that's to be commended.
I was actually just wondering that upstairs, but right before I came down here, and I was going to ask you off the air if we had done one every week. I think you did 1 or 2 solo episodes. Am I correct?
I think one of my solo ones was last year. So I think I did 1 solo one this year. And we also did an emergency podcast. So 53 total episodes this year. But listen, we're here weekly. We're here for you guys. And listen, shout out to the listeners, because if there weren't people out there listening, we would be talking to nobody. So if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have a show anyway.
Yeah, that's commitment on everybody's parts. So, yeah, we appreciate you. We hope you're entertained, and we hope to continue to entertain you as we head into the year 2024.
Yep. 2 more things to clean up before we jump into segment 1 tonight. We could be on the verge of NBA history as the Detroit Pistons are trying to set the NBA record for consecutive losses.
Oh, boy.
As we speak, as they have 26 in a row. But however, they're up 4 with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So we will do a live check-in. Obviously, our Sixers have the record. The 13-14 Sixers lost 26 in a row. Technically, though, the actual NBA record is 28 in a row by the process Sixers, but that was over 2 separate seasons, so that's technically not counted as a single season consecutive loss record.
Well, here's the history not being made. No,
We want it to be made.
Yeah, we want it to be made. Here's the continuation of the chance of history being made.
Yeah, we're rooting for the Nets tonight.
Yeah.
Other than that, I just want to say episode 77, there was a couple different options tonight, but I got to go. Somebody stamped it last night with a 50-15 performance against the Phoenix Suns. We got to go with that Luka Doncic episode.
Oh, so I was going to say you're not going with my guy, that Andrea Bargnani.
No. The second option was that Ray Bork, or maybe that Pierre Turgeon.
Or George Murison.
George got a shout out earlier this year. We got to back off the George.
You can't give George Murison enough shout outs. He was a legend.
My Giant.
Playing. Yeah, My Giant. Remember the Cologne commercial he was in?
Speaking of Giants, it's time to get into segment 1, Al.
Yep, let's do it. A win is a win.
Oh, we've been saying it all year. A win is a win. Eagles beat the Giants 33-25 to move to 11-4. When you look at the box score, which I did today after watching the game itself, the numbers don't look bad, Al. They outgained the Giants 465 to 292. The time of possession 35-25. They outran them. They outthrew them. Yet this game left so much to be desired at the end of the day. Eagles, I saw this stat. The Eagles are the first team in NFL history to fumble 4 times, to commit 9+ penalties, to allow a 65-yard pick six and a 65+ yard touchdown. They were not only the first team to win a game doing that, they were the first team ever in the history of the NFL to do all of those things in one game.
And the problem is that if you pull this, we've seen it now against even a mid-tier competent NFL team, you lose this game and you probably get blown out in this game. But since we were blessed with having the New York Giants on the schedule in week 16, a team that started Tommy DeVito and ended up with Tyrod Taylor on the field under center, we walk away with a win. Any other team, I mean, there's probably about 25 other teams in this league right now that beat the Eagles.
And the game, the majority of the first half, they played pretty well, I'd say. They're up 17-3, and they're absolutely gifted 3 points at the end of the half. What happened at the end of the half was a disgrace from Jalen Hurts' standpoint. When he's making that scramble with no timeouts, and if you saw the replay, Al, he cuts back, and he cuts back into a sea of Giants. It wasn't like he had one man to beat and thought he could score. It was white jerseys all over the place, and he gets tackled inbounds. Again, you mentioned who we're playing. By every measure, the half should have run out, and a Giant takes a delay of game penalty by trying to, sit on the ball or hold the ball when it didn't matter if he did or didn't. The Eagles were not getting another snap off. So the Eagles are gifted those 3 points at the end of the half. But that's just a microcosm of what's been going on with this team, with just making stupid mistakes. That's part. The 60% Jalen Hurts, but that's 40% Nick Sirianni. They took a timeout to play before that. Sirianni has to say, we have no timeouts left. We have to get out of bounds if you're not going to score.
Yeah, but I can't agree that's 60%. That's 100% Jalen Hurts. He's been playing football long enough to know the situation there. He doesn't have to have a coach on the sideline remind him of the situation there.
I know, but it's still the coach's job. It's still the coach's job.
It's still the coach's job, but no way, dude. That's 100% on Hurts to not get out of bounds.
All right, 60 was a little low. It's 80-20.
Yeah.
They open up the second half, and Zacchaeus.
I've never seen anything like that. That was like what would be the opposite of the butt fumble? That's what that was. The front fumble.
It looked like he got hit on an NFL blitz video game. He bounced back 7 yards after he got blocked. As
I'm sure you were, and as I'm sure many people listening were, I was in the middle, of a Christmas party while the game was on. So it wasn't like I had my full attention. But I remember out of the half, I just blinked and looked back at the TV and saw the impact. And I said to myself, what the hell? What play was this? What were they running? It didn't even cross my mind that it could have even been the kickoff, because how the hell is Zacchaeus running backwards to run into Scott on the kickoff? I've never seen anything like that.
Unbelievable. It puts the Giants back in the game. Obviously, Barkley scores the touchdown there to make it a 20-10 ball game. And again, if you are a Super Bowl contending team and you have the Giants 20-3 at halftime, the game needs to be over. You need to step on the neck and can't let them back in the game. The fact that you let a Tyrod Taylor-led Giants team back into this game is an absolute disgrace, and it's just a microcosm of what's going on with this group. There's nothing more you can say about it.
Yeah, here's what I want to know too, right? So the drive right after that, Saquon scores, we get the ball. It's 3rd and 1. The Eagles live for 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. What are they doing? Not just running the sneak on 3rd and 1. Why try to run anything else? It has a 97% now success rate. I was talking to my father-in-law about it, and I said, we're the only team in the NFL that literally the field is only 97 yards long for us. Every 1st and 10 is really a 1st and 7. I don't understand why they try to get cute. What's the point? It's 3rd and 1, and then there was on the goal line. There was a time in the game where it was, I think, 2nd and goal from the 3, and they didn't run. Just run it 3 times. I just don't understand what the thought process there of not doing it.
Yeah. So as we get later into the game, obviously there's the pick 6 happens, and look, that to me, I've been tough on Hurts all year. That's a fluky play. Goddard falls down. It is what it is, but that's the kind of plays that when you leave a team in a game that could end up burning you at the end of the game. And that's what it didn't burn them completely, but that play could have very well, been the icing on the cake in that situation because you're leaving this team in the ball game. So again, I'm not blaming anybody on that play. That stuff happens in football, but those are the things that happen when you leave teams in the game. There's nothing more you can say about that.
They tried everything they could to give this game up and to lose this game to a New York Giants team that had no business being in it. They had no business scoring 22 second-half points. I don't care that 7 of them or 6 of them were defensive. It's just obvious that the Eagles, something is wrong with them. I still have all the same concerns that we voiced last week. We don't have to go over all of them again. They lost the turnover battle again, and it could have been way worse with the amount of fumbles they had, but they were lucky enough to recover. I believe it was 3 of them. So I have no confidence in this team right now, man. No, I think I have less after yesterday's game.
And with all the on the field penalties and the on the field mistakes, I don't think it makes me. I think what makes me even less confident with this team is this team's body language.
Yeah,
and the way they're speaking after games.
Yep.
The bickering. We reported. We have a good source inside the team. We reported pretty early in the year that there was a rift going on between this coaching staff and the players, and that there were some issues at practice where there was a lot of differences. And, when this pops out is when you start losing games, and you can see it now. The players do not have confidence in this coaching staff. I was actually speaking to my source again earlier this week. He told me that Hurts is changing about 40% of the plays at the line of scrimmage this year.
Wow.
Which is a number that they haven't seen since CW, Carson Wentz, at that year where he was second guessing everything. So he said there's a lot of issues with the team. He said, Hurts, confidence wise, he is rattled. He's not the same guy he was last year. And it's not something that, it's obviously noticeable, but it's definitely, come to fruition that he's not the same guy that he was last year.
No, and it's bleeding into the locker room. I mean, Devontae Smith after the game said, quote, "I'm not satisfied. We got 11 wins, but I'm not happy." And then AJ Brown straight up just didn't say anything. And saying, quote, "I was told if I had nothing good to say, not say anything at all, and I'll take the fine if I have to."
And that's crazy. That's fake
insane.
it. Fake it.
Yep. It's at that point. It's at that point where they no longer want to. Listen, we've all been in positions where we've in hindsight probably been in a great situation and didn't, for whatever reason, got sick of it, got tired of it. Coming out of college, I had a sales job where I was making $6 figures.
What the hell's college?
With college, I say college. Coming out of college, I had a 6-figure job at the age of 22. I lasted a year because I couldn't. The morale sucked and the monotony of it. And I just think that's what's going on with the Eagles. They're 11 and 4. They're 11 and 4, but it's just the product on the field and everything. It's the chemistry is not there.
Which is crazy because the team had such good vibes last year. And they were such a fun team to watch. And I remember, listen, you can look back to the team that won the Super Bowl. That team lost their starting quarterback, who was the front runner for MVP 13 or 14 weeks through the season, whatever it was. But that team was so together. and enjoyed playing football with each other so much that by the time Foles got his sea legs under him, that team was fine.
Yeah.
And they want to win the Super Bowl. This team has none of those vibes.
Well,
they look like they are scared to make mistakes. They don't look like they enjoy playing football, and it looks like they're almost, I don't want to say going through the motions, but it's almost like we can't win. They almost feel like they can't win.
What's the difference? Expectations can be a killer, and they can loom large, and they can just weigh on you and weigh you down, and that's what we're seeing this year. This team did not have Super Bowl expectations last year. Last year, the narrative coming into the season was, can Jalen Hurts even be a competent starting quarterback over the course of 17 games? This year, you come into it with MVP aspirations for Jalen Hurts. You come into it with Super Bowl expectations for the team. It's a killer. It's killing them this year.
All right, so we've complained about it enough. What's the solution?
This year, I don't know that there necessarily is one. I think the solution would have to be, it's not going to come until the playoffs, and it has to come in that second round game where potentially they host a very good team like a Detroit Lions team. And the solution would be putting it all together in that game, in a game that we've been waiting for and clamoring for all season long, where everything comes together. Offense, defense, special teams. They all come together. They all play well. Everyone's on the same page. The play calling is competent. The product on the field is competent. And then you just ride that wave into the next round, because we all know playoffs is about momentum, and anybody can strike that match, come the wild card round or come the divisional round, and keep that flame burning all the way through the Super Bowl.
Yeah, for me, and I'm going to get up on this bridge pretty early, the coach has to go. And I don't think it'll happen unless they go into the first round of the playoffs and they lose, or maybe in the second round they go in and they get their socks blown off by 30 or something of that regard. I just don't think this guy has. Do you remember Doug Collins in the NBA?
Yeah.
Where he always had this reputation where he could come in and he could fire up troops, but by year 3 or year 4, he just burned out his guys and they were tired of listening to him. Right. This guy has the personality that I think can really wear on guys over time, where he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. He's kind of a dickhead when you be honest with you, when you look at him. And I don't think he is. I've said this over and over again. I think he's a motivator. I don't think he's a great football guy, X's and O's. And when the motivation part, you start to tune that out and you're like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I think the players push back on that. I think that's a big part of what's going on here. And I think the players are starting to get fed up now that they're losing games of Nick Sirianni. And I don't think he's the answer to what they have going on here. Listen, we've seen a lot of good coaches, I don't say good coaches, a lot of coaches put together one season of success. Barry Switzer in Dallas, per se.
Like
Chip Kelly. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if Nick Sirianni's the guy. And I think this team is going to have these issues unless they replace him with somebody better or get better offensive coordinators who can mask his issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I thought you meant what would be the Band-Aid for the rest of this season.
I did mean that. I just don't think there is one. I'm on the same page as you.
I think it's a miracle. I think you're waiting for a miracle if you're waiting for this season. Yeah, it's funny, man. I've been hearing a lot of talks about lately. Is Sirianni canned after this season? And you know what? If they lose a home game in the playoffs as the 2 seed, I would put coin toss at best, man. I could see them getting rid of him.
Jeffrey Lurie doesn't play around. I can tell you that right now.
No, he doesn't. You know what? He has his finger on the pulse of what goes on in the locker room. The players respect him as an owner because he actually kind of knows his shit. And I think that he's listening in and he knows, man. He's got guys in his ear telling him what's going on, good and bad.
And listen, I can tell you this as well. I have this on good information. Nick Sirianni was brought in as this head coach for one main reason, and that's because there is another guy in this organization that has himself a little fragile ego, and that is Mr. Howie Roseman. Mm-hmm. And Howie did not want to bring in a big-name coach who could push back on Howie, and that's why he brought Sirianni in. So I think that if Sirianni's getting too big for his britches here and his personality starting to pop, I don't think they'd be scared to pull that trigger in that situation. But it is a question of who would they bring in and whether or not Howie's going to feel comfortable with that, because again, Howie has a little bit of an issue there with, his reputation, and he wants to be the one pulling the punches, getting the credit for the big moves, etc. So I'm not saying, again, I'm throwing this name out there, but let's say if Belichick becomes available, I don't see that coming to fruition in Philadelphia. I don't think he's a fit either.
No,
but I'm throwing that type of name out there.
What a frightening and just disconcerting. There's not a word that would exaggerate this conversation that we're having sitting here going into week 17 with the Eagles at 11 wins and leading the division.
The 2 seed.
It's insane that this is the conversation that we're having right now, but it's honestly, it's the realistic one to have, because there are still fans, people I know in my life that are still just that have a win is a win attitude. And that it's insane to me at this point.
It's a win. You're back on track as far as your record goes. They've obviously got pretty good clamp on the division title at this point, coupled with the Dallas loss this past week. But if you think beating the Giants, almost going down to the wire, the Giants having a chance to tie the game on the last play when you have a 17-point lead at half is something to hang your head on.
Dude, if you're still sitting there watching Jalen Hurts just take forever to throw the ball, get rid of the ball too late, missing guys.
He's rolling out of the pocket at the first sight of pressure, the first breath that's on him. He's rolling it out. He's not staying in the pocket at all.
He also just can't throw these wide receiver screens, these hitch routes. He can't throw these curl routes. He waits too long. He waits for the guy to get out of the break and then start the windup. He needs to be starting that windup and getting rid of the ball as the guy's heading into his break and giving some time to catch the ball. He's just missing open passes. I'm really, really upset about what's going on with the Eagles, man.
Me too. So let's fast forward. There's 2 games left. They have Arizona. Shout out to the Back It Up Binge podcast. Good evening, gents. Good evening to you guys.
Good evening, guys.
I want to move it forward to the playoffs. We got Arizona. We got the Giants coming up. It seems like they have a good stranglehold on the division title. Again, with Dallas losing. Who do you want to see in the first round of playoffs? Who would make you feel a little bit better in your belly about facing in the first round of playoffs?
Who do I want to see the most? Well, we're talking about a collection of teams. We're talking about the Rams, the Seahawks, the Packers, the Vikings, right?
Yeah, that's probably your 4. I would agree with you there.
I would probably have to say the Vikings, because their quarterback situation is the sketchiest of the 4, right? Is it Nick Mullins, right? If you can't beat Nick Mullins, then forget it. You should be exiled from the playoffs in the first round and probably for the next year.
Well, they almost lost Tyrod Taylor, so we can't count too many things. But I actually have the Vikings as well. You mentioned their quarterback issues. I was reading before we jumped on the air. They're already saying now that it could be any of 3 quarterbacks playing this week. And if you have 3 options at quarterback, you don't have any options at quarterback.
Just put Jefferson back there, dude.
You ain't kidding. He made a couple of hell of plays this weekend.
Yeah.
In that Lions game. Yeah, so I had them. I had the Packers as my second choice.
You know, we're probably gonna have the same team. I don't want to see the Rams.
No, you don't want to see the Rams right now. The Rams are dangerous.
Yep. I don't want to see a team that's been there, done that, with a quarterback that knows how to win and an all-time player on defense. I don't want to see the Rams.
And you mentioned a great coach.
And a great offense. Puka, Cooper, Kyron Williams. Forget it, dude.
I'm hoping that they finish the year as a 6 seed, which I think, who do they got this week? I know they got the Niners the last week of the season.
You're gonna have to give me a second to check.
I'm gonna pull it up.
The Rams they're at the Giants and then they're at the Niners.
Okay, so you hope they split there, and then they would probably be the 6th seed in that case. So, fingers crossed we avoid that. But yeah, I would say if I had to rank them I would see Vikings, Packers, Seahawks, Rams.
I would have the same. And I don't have the Packers that far ahead of the Vikings, if we're being fair here. The Packers, I watched the last couple of games a little bit here and there. I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing. There's guys, when you scroll through, like on FanDuel, and you can bet the anytime touchdowns, there was a whole list, like a whole chunk of guys. 6 or 7 guys. I didn't know any of those guys.
On the Packers? Well,
they were all creative player names, dude.
They got a ton of rookie receivers.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what's going on in Green Bay.
Any final thoughts on the Birds here before we move it on to our locks of the week?
I hate to be so pessimistic. I really do. I hate to be such Negadelphian right now, but like I also have to be a realist. And you and I think, do a pretty good job of that. I'm worried. I'm still worried. I don't even think this week is necessarily the lock that it should be, even as a 10.5-point favorite against the Cardinals.
They'll be fine this week. They'll be fine. Oh, I guess we got to do our predictions. What's you got for the score of the Cardinals game?
Yeah, I have them squeaking it out 28-24. I just don't trust them. I just don't trust that they're not going to try to give the game away at some point, or that they're going to, there's going to be some stupid play calling issues at some point, or a Jalen turnover, an untimely error at some point. It's just this team can't put anybody away right now. So 28-24 Eagles.
I'll go 30-17. I think maybe they get a little bit right. I think the Cardinals are ready to pack it in. They look like terrible this week against the Bears. So I'm going to go 30-17 Birds this Sunday.
I just think right now we're also a team with a target on our back. And even these bad teams, and with 2 weeks ago, and I get they're packing it in, but see it as like, we can make it. We can make a little bit of noise this week. Like this team's beatable. We can go in their house and beat them. And everybody wants to shut Philly up. Let's not get that mistaken. You know what I mean? Like everybody wants to come in here and beat Philly because everybody hates us.
That is true. That is a valid point. But I think some of these guys, especially on these teams that are out of it now, they might be thinking about their New Year's Eve plans more so than these football games coming up.
Kyler might be streaming some video games right now, reading the playbook.
Agreed 100%. All right, it's also time to do our locks of the week. And again, our locks of the week, as well as the entire episode tonight, is brought to you by SeatGeek. The 3K Podcast is a proud partner of SeatGeek. Use the promo code 3Keystone, the number 3 Keystone, for $20 off your first purchase. Anything you're looking to get into, football games, basketball games, hockey games, concerts, live shows, comedies, all those things, use SeatGeek. And you can use their app. It even tells you whether or not it's a good seat, a great seat. It'll give you the value of your ticket on there. So download the app, use the code 3Keystone for $20 off your first purchase.
You can go check out the Sixers at home. Go check out the Sixers at home on January 2nd against they're hosting the Bulls. You get in for $49 with the promo code 3Keystone. You're in there for $29.
Revenge game.
Yeah.
The loss to the Bulls.
Maybe a Zach LaVine tryout game.
Zach's not playing. I don't think he's going to play. They're playing better without him.
All right, good.
Give a little update here for you, Al. The Nets are up 2 on the Pistons with 45 seconds left. Nets ball. They're going to shoot a 3 in the corner, and they make it. So now they're up 5. That may be the dagger.
Oh, boy.
All right, but anyway, our locks of the week, we had been red hot, both of us, but we both took L's this weekend. You got burned by the Packers.
Yeah, they had it. They were up 14 in the fourth. I thought it was over.
I had the Chiefs.
Yeah. Woo! Dude, I saw that stat today that the Raiders' last completion was in the first quarter, and they won that game.
That's absurd. Now listen, we have friends. I've sent a message to our friends on the Chiefs podcast. They got to be in the same spot we are, and we're going to talk a little bit about that more in segment 2. But that team is also talk about a fall from grace.
I know. I think they might be worse. We're in a worse spot than we are. I mean, and just real quick, obviously Taylor Swift has become a season-long now story, but I was really thinking about it yesterday and having this conversation. I think we're all underplaying just how distracted Travis Kelce has to be. He's dating a woman who can literally change his life forever and the lives of his grandkids and everything. Like, if one of us started dating a mega celebrity, billionaire celebrity, everything else in our lives would be instantly become secondary, and not even secondary. It would become 10th, 11th, 12th, because you'd be so focused on her.
I mean, he's got his 2 rings. He's going down as one of the greatest tight ends in history. I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast today, and he said, or Cousin Sal may have said, do you think Travis would go back to 2020 when he was a beast at football and, the Chiefs were dominating? Or would he just take what he has right now? He's kind of washed and he's dating Taylor Swift, and it's 100%. It is what he's got, everything he needs at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, dude, watching him, he's not the same guy this year.
Yeah, listen, he's got that on his mind. He's obviously aging. They don't have any other receivers to take the attention off him. And if you remember, he got hurt like right before the season started. So I'm sure all of those things are factoring in to what's going on. But that was a bad pick by me, as I took them as 10-point favorites and they didn't even win outright. So listen, an L is an L, just like a win is a win. So it all counts the same in our competition. And follow us on Twitter because we put out our 5 picks for the week. I am exactly 500 at this point in the season. So I'm hoping to get over 500 by the end of the year. I think you're 1 or 2 games over at this point.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right.
Well, let's bounce back.
Let's do it
with our best bets this week. I'm going to take actually a team that probably Chris would hate this. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, me too.
Oh, the bet! Ding ding ding!
The
ding,
first
ding,
time.
Ding, ding.
It's the first time.
Well, here's what I got. They're 6-1 against the spread at home. They're 9-2 against the spread this season as a favorite. This team is Jekyll and Hyde. We just watched them lose 2 road games back to back. Detroit's coming off of a couple of wins at the Vikings and then at home against the Broncos. Could be time for a little bit of a letdown for those guys. They're also a little bit shaky on the road, losing at Chicago this season. Look, I just think that this is a spot where the Cowboys bounce back. They put up big numbers. They get everybody believing again. We get all the how about them Cowboys and Dak for MVP push again. So I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to get it done at home and cover the 6 points.
Yeah, listen, I think the one thing that I'll add to that is the Lions win their first division title and clinch their first division title in 30 years this past week. They're pretty much locked into the 3 seed unless the Eagles lose. Just from what I read, I know there's a bunch of tiebreakers that come into play. With that said, I think it's just like you said, it's a major letdown spot for them. And you get Dallas at home where their offense is really, really good. And to be honest, the Detroit defense, especially their pass defense, has not been great the past few weeks. They've been burned on that end. The Cowboys are laying 6. The line tells you something. It always does. And to me, I see the Cowboys boat racing the Lions this weekend. And again, I wouldn't take too much from it. I think it's just a bad spot. We talk spots all the time. But I'm going to take Dallas as well. So this is the first time this year that we've matched up on locks of the week.
This is. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, I would be pounding the Lions if I'm the listeners in the chat right now.
I'm staying away.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. I want to get into some additional NFL talk with you, Al, for segment 2.
Let's do it.
This was kind of a fly. You saw a tweet. I'm going to pull it up so I have it on reference here. And we talked all year about the quarterback play in the NFL and the inconsistencies that have been at the position. So before we get into some of the playoff matchups that I really want you to see, you threw this tweet at me and said pick one quarterback you trust the most to lead a game-winning drive right now. And there's a picture of 8 guys on the list, and I'm going to read them to you, and then we're going to add a couple of additional ones. So it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Matthew Stafford, it's Jalen Hurts, it's Brock Purdy, it's Tua, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen. So let's add Jared Goff. And then for conversation's sake, I want to add one of your boys in here, and that's Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I was surprised he got left out.
So what I want to do is let's draft them. Who you feel the most trustworthy with to take you on a game-winning drive. And how I want to do this is you're getting that team. So if you're taking Patrick Mahomes, you're getting Rashee Rice, you're getting Kadarius Toney, you're getting all those receivers, and we'll do it on a neutral field. So it's the Super Bowl. And you get the ball on your own 25-yard line, and you need him to go and take you down the field for a touchdown. So I'll give you the first pick, and I'll let you make the choice here.
Are we going 10-1?
No, let's draft them as if it was a draft. Let's do it.
Okay. So my number one guy that I had, I guess I'll stick to it, is a guy that we talked about 3 weeks ago, I want to say. And you were really bullish on this guy and saying that you trusted him more than Jalen Hurts. And at number 1, I'm taking Josh Allen. And if I'm getting that whole Buffalo team behind him, I'm getting the Stephon Diggs. I'm getting, we talk about Gabe Davis not really being sure about what he brings as a number 2. James Cook looks really good this year. Dalton Kincaid looks like a pretty good tight end, a little safety valve for Josh. Dude, this is a team that, they've lost some games this year, but he can still do it all. He has 18 game-winning drives under his belt in the regular season, Josh Allen. He has 3 alone this season, 2 fourth quarter comebacks this season. He's a guy that can do it on the ground and through the air. And another pick that Guest would hate if he was here. So good thing he's not here. I'm taking Josh Allen first overall.
That's a great pick. I was going to take Josh Allen as well. I am going. This is really hard because all of these guys have warts, right?
Yeah.
At this point, I'm going to make a really controversial pick. I'm going to make Guest even more mad. I'm going to go with Purdy, even despite what I saw last night. And this has so much less to do with Brock Purdy as it does the guys that he's throwing the ball to and that San Francisco offense. And I know he played terrible last night. I think that may have more to do with the Baltimore defense than anything else. That Baltimore defense has been really underrated the entire season. But Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, there's no other quarterbacks on this list that have that many weapons at their disposal.
There's one.
Ooh. I don't think even the guy you're going to say has that many weapons at their disposal. So I hate taking Purdy, but a lot of these other guys I've seen fail at doing it. And I really haven't seen Brock fail outside of what I saw last night. So I'm going to go with Purdy.
I mean, yeah, listen, if we had this conversation prior to last night's game, I don't make those noises at the pick.
Rightfully so. You can make the noises. Like I understand them 100%.
You know how I feel about him, though. I was sitting here, leading the parade for Brock for MVP, saying that he's, completely just undervalued and disrespected as a player in this league. So, that's fine. Not who I would have taken at 2, but I think to have him outside of the top 4 or 5 at most would have been criminal. So
more to do with the guys around him.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Yeah, since we're taking the guys around, I think who my third pick is gonna be here for me, and it's Tua.
You love all my guys.
Well, listen, if you're telling me I'm getting the whole team, and you look around and you have 2,000-yard receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Honestly, if we're being Tyreek Hill should be a top 3 MVP candidate, but he's not because he's a receiver. But the guy is a complete game changer on offense. Then you have 2 running backs. You have a guy in Raheem Mostert who has 1,000 yards, 18 touchdowns on the ground. You have Devin is at Achane, 7 touchdowns on the ground. All these guys are on like 4.3 40s. 2 is, he has what this year? Let me look it up. He has 2 game-winning drives, 2 fourth quarter comebacks, 26 touchdowns.
He leads the NFL in passing yards. He just did it against Dallas, right?
70% completion percentage. Yeah, I have nothing but the utmost of faith. If you give me Tua Tagovailoa, that offense on the 25, and I need a touchdown to win the game, you give me 2 minutes, I'm taking Tua over everyone else on the list.
All right. I didn't want to take this guy, but I think we have to, especially again after what we saw yesterday. I'll take Lamar next, who is now the heavy favorite to win MVP of the league, and I want to discuss that a little bit with you as well. At the end of the day, I mentioned all these guys have warts, but Lamar has that special ability to make something happen when you need it, whether it's he busts off a 35-yard run or he finds, one of these no-name receivers or no-name running backs. They seem to plug and play at the running back position, whether it's Gus Edwards or it's a Justice Hill now that they lost Keaton Mitchell. Zay Flowers looks like he's the real deal. I really do like him. OBJ's there. We're still running routes. Lamar's just has a little bit of magic in him, which I have to respect. And he wins football games. I'm not a huge fan of him personally, but he wins football games. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what the most important thing at the position is. With that said, I am tired of us just giving the MVP to the quarterback of the best team in the league. If you look at Lamar's stats, I think he's got 19 touchdown passes this year. He's not going to throw for 4,000 yards. His rushing numbers are good. But it was Dak Prescott 3 weeks ago, had the best record in the league. Then it became Brock Purdy, best team in the league. And now it's Lamar Jackson because he's a quarterback of the best team in the league. I told you the MVP was going to be at the beginning of the year. I gave you him at 150-1. It's Christian McCaffrey. That's who should win the award. And I'm going to take my flowers on that for saying it in the preseason, even if he doesn't win it, because he should have won it. He should win it this year.
Yeah, it's a lazy award. It's a thoughtless award, and I can't disagree with you having McCaffrey. And the only reason why I don't take bets like that, even at 150 to 1, is because of the narrative that the NFL plays and the media plays. They're just not going to give that award to a running back, to a wide receiver, to a guy that does not play the quarterback position. Because as I just said, I just went on the soapbox for Tyreek Hill. You can't tell me that Tyreek Hill isn't an eligible candidate for MVP of the league with what he's done this season and what Miami did without him in that game and a half. So I completely agree, dude. I have McCaffrey and Tyreek 1 and 1A.
And shout out to Lamar. Like, he's had a great year, but that Ravens defense has been the staple that held that team together. And he's been good, but he hasn't been MVP good like he was when he won an MVP. Like, right. He had that season, he had the numbers to do it. I just don't think he has the numbers this year.
Yep. I agree.
All right, you're up. So the first four guys off the board are Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, Tua, and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and I have to do this not just because we're a Philly pod, but when you look at the rest of the guys on this list, I have to take Jalen Hurts here. Okay, he does still have A.J. Brown. He does still have Devontae Smith. He does still have Dallas Goedert. He has 4 game-winning drives this season. Yes, the turnovers are a killer this year. He has more turnovers, I'm sure, this year than he has in any season in his career. But when I look at the other names on the list that you're about to hear us take at 6 through 10, give me the ball in Jalen's hands. I think there's still a little bit of the revenge factor there too, of him never having had that chance in the Super Bowl last season to come down the field and make that game winning, lead the team on the game winning drive. So I'm taking Jalen Hurts at 5, and we're going to see how far down a certain someone out west slips.
Yeah, listen, I have no problem with this pick. Jalen has proven to have a clutch gene, despite, again, the issues. If it wasn't for everything they're going through as a team, I think he's a top 2 or 3 guy at this point, especially with, again, weapons that they do have on the offense when they're all clicking. But he's proven to be able to be that guy to take you down the field when it matters. So I have no problem with that pick. So goes back to me, and the guys left on the board now at this point are Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes. And it feels downright disrespectful to have Mr. Mahomes at the board on this point. But I'm not taking him. It's just that team has been so bad and they look terrible. I'm going to go with Matt Stafford.
Wow.
Matt Stafford's got a Super Bowl on his resume. He's done it on the biggest stage. That offense is starting to click. They're playing very well. They have the coach that I like. They have the receivers with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua on the outside. They have the running game to complement it. It seems like they are finding their stride, and he is finally healthy again. So, again, give me Stafford in this spot with that offense that they have, the way they're playing at this point in the year. And that was a tough decision to make in that spot.
Yeah, wow. But you know what? I probably would have taken him at 7 if you had taken – I'm taking Dak.
You're going Dak now, huh?
I'm taking Dak. I'm taking Dak at 7. And what I'm trying to envision is just that. Like, I'm sitting there and somebody just says to me, Al, $1 million on the line. You can take the Cowboys, the Lions, the Jaguars, or the Chiefs based on what you've seen so far this season in the NFL. And I just can't. I know that Dak is missing that same gene that we just talked about, and you just said Jalen Hurts has, and it's been proven that he's missing that gene. But given the weapons around him, given the things that we've seen Dallas do this season when they are running on all cylinders, albeit it's usually at home and it's usually against lesser competition, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. And I'm going to say that I trust Dak and the Dallas Cowboys to engineer a game-winning drive before the other 3 people on this list. Just digging a little bit deeper into the numbers, he has 30 touchdowns. He has only 7 interceptions this season. So he's not turning the ball over. He's going to end up throwing for over 4,000 yards. And the pieces around him, CD, Cooks, Ferguson. Pollard hasn't been that great this season, but
no. They find a way. Their offense has been really good. They have Cooks. I don't know if you mentioned him, Gallup as well.
Yeah. I
have to disagree with you. This is the first time we're going to disagree. So you're telling me if you had $100,
I said $1 million.
I'm saying I'm trying to make it realistic here. you would trust the Dallas Cowboys to take it 80 yards and score a touchdown before the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and
Dak Prescott's never done it on any sort of big stage.
I don't care. Patrick Mahomes has never done it with a team around him like this. This team is, and you want to talk about the Eagles having trouble in the locker room with the coaching staff. Everything that you see on the internet, it seems like it's the same thing with the Chiefs right now, with that coaching staff, that nobody trusts each other and there's problems and there's issues, and you got Mahomes yelling at guys on the sidelines. Dude, I don't trust this Chiefs team at all. They don't look like the Chiefs.
I know they don't look like the Chiefs, and that's why Patrick Mahomes has fallen so far in this draft. But I got to take him at this point, and I would have taken him over Dak in that certain spot just because of the pedigree. And to be honest with you, he's want to be one of the top 3 or 4 best quarterbacks of all time. So you give me him in that spot, and I have to. I mentioned with Lamar just the magic to make a play. Patrick Mahomes also has that gene. You saw him bust off that run in the Super Bowl on a high ankle sprain when the Chiefs needed it the most. So give me Mahomes at this point. I trust the pedigree. I'd still have Travis Kelce, who I think can get loose and do his thing and maybe make a play or two if I need to. And I just think it's crazy to me that he's fallen this far in this draft. I understand why, especially we might be overreacting to what we saw yesterday a little bit. I can't blame us for doing that because it was downright putrid. But I think we might be overreacting a touch.
No, I think we're reacting properly to what we've seen this season. If you look at the last 8 games for Kansas City,
3-5.
3-5. Mahomes has games where he's thrown for 240 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks against Denver. 185 yards, 177 yards, 210 yards. These are not Mahomes numbers, dude.
No.
These aren't. If I just gave you these numbers without the name, there's no way you're telling me these are Patrick Mahomes numbers.
And where's Andy? Where's Andy at?
I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know what's
down to. So we're down to 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks or 2.
No, did you just take Mahomes?
Yeah, I'm taking Mahomes.
Yeah. So we're down
to the 2 additions. So we're down to
Goff and Lawrence.
Goff and Lawrence.
Listen, I got to take Jared Goff here. Something's wrong with Lawrence. I think he's hurt, right? That ankle or whatever happened to him a couple games back.
He had an ankle. He had a concussion.
Right. And the team around him is falling apart. Guys aren't on the field. Christian Kirk's not on the field. I think it's Calvin Ridley's like the only healthy starter right now as far as the offensive side of the football. So give me Jared Goff. I'll take him. Amon-Ra, Gibbs, Montgomery. That's a pretty stout. And your boy, the next Rob Gronkowski, Sam Laporta.
That's my guy, Sammy L.
Give me all these guys, especially if they're going to be in a dome or if they're going to be in a warm weather climate. If you're telling me this is the Super Bowl on a neutral field, I got no problems with Jared Goff. I don't listen. Obviously, he's 9th for a reason, but still, with that said, 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions this season. Going to throw for 4,000 yards. Fine with it.
All right, that leaves me with Trevor Lawrence. I'm not going to diatribe on Trevor Lawrence. It's been a disappointing season for him and that team, to be honest with you. I did want to touch a little bit on some potential first-round playoff matchups and just get your vibe on whether or not some of these matchups would intrigue you at all. So I'm just going to rattle them off as the seedings are right now. So in the AFC, Baltimore gets the bye. Miami and Indianapolis in the first round. Kansas City, Buffalo, and Jacksonville and Cleveland. Any thoughts on the AFC matchups there?
I see some teams prime for some upsets.
Kansas City, Buffalo, rivalry renewed.
Kansas City, Buffalo, Jacksonville, Cleveland. And Cleveland obviously is, quote, an underdog because they have to go into Jacksonville at 10, but they're 10-5. I was looking today online that there's still a path for them to get the 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns. If Baltimore loses out, they win out, and Miami goes 1-1. So I think, if anything, man, you're worried if you're Kansas City, and you're worried if you're Jacksonville at this point. Miami should roll Indianapolis. I just don't see Indianapolis having the offense to keep up with a Miami at home. And then this looks like, it looks like we're heading to a Miami-Baltimore AFC championship game. Excuse me. Buffalo. I can't gloss over Buffalo. Yeah, I can't gloss over Buffalo that easily, but they would have to go to Baltimore most likely if they were
in that game. Yes, I wouldn't, dude. I don't know if you can you gloss over? We got to give Joe Flacco. We haven't mentioned him. What if Kansas City does beat Buffalo, a Flacco revenge game against Baltimore?
That's true.
A divisional. If Flacco gets to the Super Bowl with the Cleveland Browns, put him in the Canton right now. Like this would etch his legacy.
That would be just a Cleveland revenge game, period, for shipping the team
everything.
More, what was it, 25 years ago?
Everything.
Yeah.
I actually would love to see that game.
Yeah, what a storyline that would be.
Flacco's just airing it out.
Yeah, how old is he now? He's got to be our age, 38, right?
Yeah, he's got to be up there at that age. He just looks like he's back there. He's like just gunslinging. I'm gonna throw it up to Cooper and to Joku, and whatever happens, happens. I got nothing to lose.
Just having fun. I know I took Cooper as like my bust wide receiver this year, and that's not come to fruition.
My work fantasy football league, I had Amari Cooper on the bench this week.
What are you gonna do?
I lost.
It
was tough.
327 yards per game right now for the young man.
Shout out to Joe Flacco, Delaware's finest. All right, in the NFC, we got the Niners with the bye, Eagles, Seahawks, Lions, Rams, and then Buccaneers, Cowboys. Another revenge game. Stafford going up against Detroit.
Yep. And we just talked about the Rams being dangerous. No, I don't think anybody wants any part of the Los Angeles Rams right now. So I see another upset in the making there potentially as well. And as talented as Philadelphia is on paper, and we've been saying it all season long, I'm not going to sit there and say that Philly beating Seattle at home would be any type of a lock.
No, but I think if we face Seattle at home, we're assuming we win these last two games, 7.5 point favorites.
That's a lot of points. I'm thinking maybe 6.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they just lost to Drew Lock, but were they 3-point favorites in Seattle?
Yeah.
So that's 9 at home. Again, that Drew Lock's probably worth a point or two. Yeah, it depends how these games end up, but it's right around a touchdown.
Who's laying 2 scores with this Philadelphia Eagles team right now? You got to be out of your mind.
Listen, I'm also over, and we can wrap with this unless you have something else. They moved to the 7 playoff teams last year. I'm over it. Like last year, I think we had Seattle got in as the 7 seed, got boat raced by the 49ers.
Yeah.
In the AFC, we had the Dolphins who got in with Thompson was the quarterback at that point. It was the third string Thompson.
Skylar
Thompson, thank you. Like that, they had no business being in. And now we're going to get, again, a Seattle team that, to be fair, Seattle Vikings Packers don't deserve in, and a Colts team that's, thanks for coming, but you're probably going to be one and done. So I understand why they do it to get the extra games, but these teams don't deserve to be playoff teams.
Nope, absolutely not. I have nothing more to add. It's just a money grub situation.
All right. Anything else before we move on to segment 3?
Go Birds.
I guess. All right, listen, we wanted to get into the holiday spirit here for segment 3. We're now past Christmas, but New Year's is right around the corner. And we're all those New Year's resolutions. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to go to more sports events and use SeatGeek, the code 3Keystone for $20 off. We're going to do all sorts of things. But we wanted to give some New Year's resolutions to some of our favorite athletes and some of our favorite teams. So we figured now is a better time. There's no better time to do it than right now. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Sure. I went really Philly-centric with this, but I'll start with the one that I have here that's not Philly-centric, and that's to the sport of golf. I just want to give the entire sport of golf the resolution to just find a way to get along, because we have now this rift between the PGA Tour and LIV that is only growing larger seemingly by the day. And we have a guy like John Rahm heading over to LIV, and then we hear the constant rumors of guys like Tony Finau who shut the rumors down, but still it's like we're just living in this world of uncertainty. Feels a lot like the old Wild Wild West Attitude Era wrestling with WWF and WCW and guys moving back and forth. And it just, at the end of the day, it's just watering down the product for the fans. I mean, we're just not getting to see all these guys play together. The Masters field is going to be the smallest one in the history of the event. There's only 50 guys that have qualified at this point so far this season. We're going to start to see some of these LIV guys not qualify for these majors unless they've won one because of the fact that they're dropping down the rankings, because these wins don't count as far as the official World Golf Rankings are concerned. So it's just, golf is a mess. And we've talked about it. We've talked about college football being a mess. And my resolution for golf is just find a way to make it happen where we can all get along and get these LIV guys back into these PGA events.
What do you think it's going to take?
Money. Money. That's it. I don't know what else.
Yeah, it's really is a shame because again, the biggest losers in all of this are us, right? The viewers of the product. That's the biggest loser in golf, and it's really a shame because we don't get to see the best guys compete against each other on a weekly basis. So I think that's a really good one, and unfortunately, I think we're at least a year or two away from that hopefully happening at some point. But I think it's going to be a tough year for golf.
Yep, agreed.
All right, let me start out. I did all local ones, but it wouldn't be an episode if I didn't get into my boy Joel a little bit, right? So I have Joel Embiid to be a better leader. And I do want to back him up by saying this. There were people online giving him crap for missing the game on Christmas because he had the ankle sprain. If you saw the ankle sprain on I'm so lost on my days, but against Toronto, I think it was.
Yep.
It was a legitimate injury.
Yep.
And we all, he finished the game. Anybody who's been an athlete and has sprained an ankle knows that the next day it's 100 times worse than what it is when it first originally happens. I have no qualms at all with Joel Embiid not playing on Christmas. And actually, he's out tomorrow as well. However, there was a report from Howard Eskin, so take it for what it's worth on the truth. But Eskin is a qualified reporter. It's not like it was a what was the guy you always followed? Vin the Insider. And I was arguing with this with Chris the other day when we were debating it on a text thread. There was a report that the week before the Christmas game, Joel had requested or gone to the Sixers and asked if he could fly separate to Miami the day of the game so that he could spend Christmas morning with his family. Now, I saw this and I was torn on it. Obviously, I have a newborn. I know what it's like. Joel's son is 4 years old, and by all indications, he has a very tight relationship. He brought him to the All-Star game last year. He named him after his brother who passed away, all those good things. I get that. I understand all that. But Joel Embiid makes $50 million a year. And with every job, there are certain hazards that come with it. And the part of this one is you may have to work on Christmas. And there are 5 teams in the NBA that have to travel on Christmas every year. And I guarantee you some of those guys have kids. And it's just part of the shtick. And the thing is, the one thing that Joel lacks is being a really good leader. We've seen him on the court be an absolute monster, but his leadership has always been a question. And I don't think as a leader of a team, you should be flying separate. You need to set the example because, again, I'm sure there are other guys on that team that have kids that aren't making this request. And to me, I just feel for you that you're not going to be able to spend it with your kid. But you need to find another way, whether it's the day before, the night before, to do that type of stuff. And then you figure out the rest later. So to me, it was just like another bit of not a huge deal, but just another sign that he's not ready to be a leader of a team that's going to win a championship.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I want to bounce back a couple things that I was thinking about while you were kind of going over your resolution. Joel Embiid has proven that he's not built to be a leader. And if his history in the game of basketball and just his history of his life, he picked the game up at such a late age. He became part of a team at such a late age. These are things that most professional basketball players are raised from the youngest nowadays, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. They're going through the AAU circuit, travel league, etc. They're finding out early on those skills that it takes and those little intricacies and those things, the intangibles that it takes to be a leader. And you're making those decisions pretty early on. And you're getting molded by the people around you. And I don't think Joel had that in his life. He went to Kansas and he was there for one year.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. He was thrust right into the NBA spotlight, the limelight. I think he's a lot like, I was actually just talking about this guy the other day. Jamal Williams down in New Orleans, who was just with Detroit last year and had all those touchdowns, the running back, where he does interviews and he's this quirky guy. He's into anime and he's into just like cartoons and he's into quote nerd culture. And when they ask him about it and they say, what's up with that? He says, you guys think it's a shtick. He says, it's not a shtick. It's who I am. Those are my real life interests. I just happen to be really good at football. but football is my job, and I don't look at it as anything else. And I think to a certain degree, that's how Joel Embiid is. I think he just happens to be really good at basketball, but that's where it ends for him. I don't think he wants to be a leader, and he doesn't know how to be a leader. And at this point, we can't expect it to happen.
These are all really good points. And unfortunately, I don't know if this team can take it to that next level unless he becomes that guy.
I agree. I agree with you. And there's no one on the team that I'm looking at that roster that can also be that guy.
Right. Tyrese is not ready to be that guy.
No.
And like a Marcus Morris can be a leader, but you can only be so much of a leader if you're not on the court when it matters.
Right.
So are you like, again, I'm just curious about the situation itself. Do you feel like it was out of line for him to ask to go on a plane?
Yeah.
Again, this is according to Howard Eskin. I have no other source other than that.
The other part of it that I was going to mention is I'm going to assume he had already texted or talked to a couple of the guys, at least within the team, about that decision before putting it out there. Now, if he didn't and he just put that out there, yeah, that's a little bit of a slap in the face to his teammates and to his coaching staff, because you're right. He's not the only one in that situation. Everybody has families, dude. Right. Nobody wants to be doing that, right. But it's part of the job.
And to my point again, like, I understand it's a difficult situation. Like, I'm not taking that out. Obviously you're a father. I'm a father now, but your kids are going to be set for life because you have this job. And there are certain hazards that come with it. We look at Chris, like our colleague didn't get much paternity leave because he has a new job. Like that's the way it is. That's the way his job is. And that's a hazard that came with it. And it sucks, but he has to do what's right for his family.
Dude, when I can, my family comes first.
Right.
So if there's something that's going on in my family's lives that I need to be at, I'm there, and I'm going to make whatever decisions I need to make to get there. But at the same point, when I coached football, and this is why I gave coaching football up, I was home at 6:30 every night for 3 months. And it came to a point where it was like, yo, I'm literally missing 3 months of my kids' lives during the week at least, because I'm getting home and it's bedtime. And even that little bit of a sacrifice was like, I'm not making that sacrifice. So I gave it up. But
if you were making family changing money to coach that football team, you would have done it.
Right. Then that's completely different. Exactly. That's 100% different. Then I'm making that sacrifice and I'm absolutely missing bedtime because of that.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Little family debate there.
Yeah, it is a little family debate. But it's like, like I could have, instead of taking the team bus, I could have driven to away games and then just went right home. Right. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I signed on for this. Like, I have to do what I have to do. It is what it is.
All right, hit me with your next one.
So this one goes out to the Philadelphia Phillies and the Philadelphia Philly fan base. And our resolution needs to be that we need to be more humble. We need a little bit more humility. And we talked about expectations earlier on. And obviously the expectations have been raised for this team. And now it's gotten to the point where it's championship or bust. And we were winning games and we were winning series where we were acting like we were the kings of the mountains after a Game 3 NLDS win against the Atlanta Braves, or because we swept the Miami Marlins in the wild card round, or because we had that 2-1 lead against the Diamondbacks, a team that we saw as being inferior, and then they shoved it right down our throats. So I think that as a whole, Philadelphia fans, we need to dial it back. The Philadelphia Phillies, the players, you need to dial it back. We haven't won anything. And this attitude now of loving the whole thing, of national media giving us this whole praise and respect of us being this crazed fan base, yeah, it's great, but we can still do that and be a little bit humble at the same time.
That's never going to happen.
No, it's not.
It's never going to happen.
Not.
You're not going to let it happen.
What sucks is it just makes the hurt worse.
Oh yeah, completely. You're definitely cut up, and it eats you up on the inside.
But I don't want to say I'm not a cocky fan.
No, but we were all at when you're talking about Phillies, we were all, the Diamondbacks were dead.
But there are people that take it to that next level of cockiness. Like when you talk about, and I know that he says it was taken out of context, but when you talk about a Garrett Stubbs talking about how he's going to be celebrating in the pool in Arizona before they even played a game out there.
Yeah,
that's a different level of cockiness.
We all felt like it was we were there.
But we at least break it down and give the reasons why. We don't just say like, "Oh, this team sucks. Who's next?"
All right, that's fair. I'm gonna go with mine. I'm gonna go with my third one just to mix it up a little bit. I don't really have a lot of data behind this, Al, but I'm just going to put my New Year's resolution to Philadelphia Flyers. Keep up the pace. From all indications, the Flyers are playing some good hockey.
Yeah.
And like, I don't, if they make the playoffs, are we going to have to watch some of that?
We're going to have an emergency pod when they clinch.
I don't know if we have the data or the knowledge to do something like that.
No, we definitely don't. I still can't name more than 3 players on that team.
Coots
and Konechny, Carter Hart,
Brink.
Bobby Brink, and I think there's a Clink. Is there a Clink?
A Clink and a Dink. No, that was Jerry the King Lawler's or Doink the Clown's Survivor Series '94 team. Dink, wink, pink.
No, there's not a Clink. I made that up.
All right, let's move on before we embarrass ourselves any further. Shout out to the Flyers, playing good.
All right, well, my next one is for the Philadelphia Eagles come NFL draft season, not to be afraid to draft linebackers. This is a unit that is hurting, and we need something, and we need it fast. I don't know that Nakobe Dean is ever going to be that guy, and I know that the guys on the field right now are never going to be that guy. So don't be afraid to draft a guy. Look, I'm not the NFL draft guru that Chris is, or that our other, fourth man sometimes, Dan Tuna-Claycomb is. But so I haven't looked at the linebackers coming out this season, but I'm sure there's got to be a guy that we could potentially take in one of those first few rounds to help us turn things around on the defensive side of the football.
They had the undrafted free agent, the white boy out there yesterday played a decent game.
Yeah. And Leonard looked a little better yesterday. He looked better than he did 2 weeks ago, at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Not saying much.
He looked terrible against Seattle that game. But I mean, listen, there's always teams that don't prioritize certain positions, and that seems to be the one for the Eagles. They don't prioritize that linebacker spot. But I hear you. It certainly has showed its face this year as far as some of the deficiencies on the defense.
The neglect.
All right, my last one is an Eagles one as well. A.J. Brown to stop being a diva.
Always open.
Listen, the early 2000s when we were in high school and college was the prime wide receivers are divas era. Yep. Randy Moss, T.O., Ocho Cinco, even Keyshawn Johnson to a point.
Yep.
All of the wide receivers were always open. They were never getting the football. And it kind of died off a little bit. It really did. And, we saw it peek its head out a little bit with Antonio Brown, although I think that was a little more CTE baited than anything else. But A.J. Brown, with his comments earlier this year, he wasn't getting the ball. Now they win a game. He has nothing to say because he doesn't want to say anything bad. He's tweeting at the fans. Dude, just stop. It's annoying. It's petty. We know you're really good. You've got 101 receptions this year. You get the ball plenty. We don't throw it to anybody else. Yep. It's not like you're neglected on the field. Just stop. Just stop being a diva. Stop being I don't want to say the C word because I don't think it's a cancer at this point. But try and help bring this team together at this point in the season instead of just being somebody who's trying to break it apart, essentially.
Yeah, well said. And I don't want to see that rub off onto anybody else in that locker room. I don't want to see that rub off on Devontae Smith, who had some comments after the game that we talked about earlier already. So, yeah, I'm with you. You know me. I was all in on the diva receivers. I loved them.
Oh, because you were one.
I was one. I loved them. I still got a soft spot in my heart for them. So, but I don't want to see it on the Eagles. That's one locker room I don't want to see it.
And I'm curious what the relationship is with him and Hurts because they were boys back when they first came on board. It just doesn't seem like they're as close as they are, especially on the field. There's definitely some bickering, but it could just be an on the field thing and not an off the field thing. But it is something that I think about.
Yep. And it's more apparent when they're losing. As we said, winning cures all. And when you lose 3 in a row, things pop up.
Yep. I mean, I said it before the losing happened. The Hurts attitude on the sideline goes from stoic, focused, concentrating when they're winning to depressed, demoralized, and
aged.
When they're losing. It's just a win or lose, how you're going to, portray what he's doing.
Yep.
All right. Is that a wrap for 2023?
Well, I thought, we could the last thing I have here is not really resolutions, maybe predictions for the show.
Okay. So that's breaking down the fourth wall. big meeting tomorrow. Chris is going to be there.
Big lunch.
As we put together some plans for 2024 for you guys. So all these predictions have not even been discussed at this point.
No.
But go ahead, hit me. Let me get your vibe on what you're thinking for this before we get started.
We've kicked this idea around, and obviously it's the time is just tough with when games are on, but potentially some live streams, right? Not just live streams, just live. A Sixers game is on. You can join us for commentary and BS while it's on. We'll just talk about what we're seeing live as it's happening. So that's one of the things, and then not just the Sixers, but this could be for a Phillies game or an Eagles game potentially, or a Flyers game down the road. Maybe we'll figure out some of these guys who we got on the ice.
Yeah, that would be something to see what we can do there. I would like to do something special for our 100th episode when we get there. I don't know if it means we go somewhere live, maybe like a Parks, and see if we can get in there and broadcast it live. That may be a disaster in itself, but it may be worth giving it a shot. But for 50, we kind of made it seem like it was going to be a big deal, and then we didn't really have anything to back it up per se. I would really like to do something special for when we get to 100. I think it would be probably mid-year.
I just looked it up. Unless I'm off on my math, it looks like June 4th, Tuesday, June 4th.
That's probably right around school's out.
Yeah, I'm out the next week.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, June 4th, I could do something for that.
Yeah, I think for 100 episodes, we got to do something special.
I like that. I like that. And this leads into my other prediction or hope or I don't know what to call it really, but some kind of a live event. So we talked about live streaming from the comfort of our homes, but the potential of some kind of live watch party, whether it's a game or I'm thinking maybe when it gets nicer, if we can figure out the technology behind doing this, some kind of a live tailgate from Citizens Bank prior to a game. Where we have maybe some contests or giveaways or something. I don't know, something a little bit bigger where we can get the fans more involved in person, get you guys on the social media, on the Instagram page, on the Twitter page, on the YouTube page. So, giving a little bit back, I think, a little bit more than we already have to the listeners this year.
I like that idea. Even if we don't even it doesn't even have to be a stream. It could just be something where we're bringing all of our fans together. Mark Saber's out there. Handing out stuff. Shout out to my man Mark hitting us up on the Instagram all the time. I think that's a good idea as well. I also would I don't remember what I was going to say, but
and here's the thing too: is it doesn't take much because we could just be out there with our phones, and then we could be on Instagram Live and we could be Twitter Live. So it's not like it has to be this whole have the laptops out there and have speakers and headphones and everything else. Just a little that's what the Gen Z kids do these days. Adam, did you know that they just go out there with a phone and like a little lavalier mic, and then they're just holding it back, bop, 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 and that's it. That's all we need.
Maybe we should just focus on getting a little more tech savvy in this next year because that may be our biggest obstacle.
I'm trying
when it comes to some of the stuff. Listen, you're way ahead of me, so I got to give you the credit for that. But listen, we got a lot of stuff that's planned. We want to keep growing with you guys. It's been a great year. We ran through some of the numbers internally, and our growth has really been there, and we love doing the live streams for you guys. So. Give us all the feedback that you have. We're more than happy to take it in and try and adjust as we can. We're going to try and put some contests together for you guys this year as well. So a lot of things we're going to discuss tomorrow. We'll be at Collegeville Bakery at 12 o'clock. If you want more information, that's where we'll be.
Stop by.
Probably crushing some cheesesteaks. And if you want to see Chris, because you haven't seen him in a long time, that's where he'll be. So you can give him some shit for not being on the pod.
All right, I got an over-under for you. Over-under number of pounds Chris has gained since fatherhood. Let's go.
Were you on that text thread? Because I was texting with him. I think we were texting one-on-one. And his in-laws are in town for Christmas.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay.
And he had said to me, he said, I had my first drink since the kids were born. He was like, I also got to the gym for the first time. He was like, I lost everything. He was like, I have to start from scratch. I said, dude, I know. I said, all you do is eat. I said, I put on the 10 pounds as well, at least. I was like, you just gotta eventually it gets better and you can get back in there.
And what sucks is he lost all the muscle.
Yeah.
But he probably is the same weight because he lost the muscle and just gained the fat. And so it looks like on the scale that nothing's happening, but internally you're a mess.
Yeah. You mentioned to me your best Christmas gift. You showed us the cup there. I didn't get to give you my best Christmas gift that I got. Hayden pulls a 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. yesterday.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Through the
How
middle
about
of
that?
Yeah,
Love
we'll take that.
There's nothing that could be better than that. And I think he went down. I think he's still asleep now, which is fantastic. Yeah, we're getting past the point.
Enjoy. There you go.
We're getting there. But if nothing else, you good to sign off for 2023?
See you in the new year, everybody.
And for the last time, we're going to drop that beat.